Welcome to HitPointsGaming. My name is Corey, and in today's episode I will be doing a preview of a game known as Alynthia, which is coming to Kickstarter Q1 of 2022. Now in Alynthia, the land has been overrun by a series of dragons, and all the guild members are looking to you to lead them to victory. Now this is a co-op game. There is a verse mode version of playing it, but note that I have not done that yet. I have only stuck to the co-op version of it. And eventually became victorious, and we're going to talk about that. So first let me show you how the game is set up and give you an overview of how it's played. This is a two-player setup of Alynthia, and you'll notice that the board is set up with a bunch of different resources on the board. You've got your wood, food, coal, and worker spaces. You'll also have two different spaces where your players are going to start, each faction, and 4 different regions that control dragon nests. And that's the point of the game. You need to go around and destroy each dragon nest in turns 2 through 5. This game is 5 rounds long, and you must destroy a dragon nest in each round, starting in round 2, or else you lose. That's the losing condition. So I think one of the best parts of this game really comes down to your player board. This is what you can see here. So you keep track of a lot of things. Really your focus meter, and that's how you're going to be keeping track of your actions. So each thing that you perform will require a certain number of focus, and you keep it here on the tracker, and then at the end of the round you gain 7 back, and obviously you can go above your 7 here. But what you're going to be doing here is really moving around the board and dropping these outposts on the board wherever you're standing. And while you do that is you're trying to gain renown. Okay, renown is what you're going to need in order to defeat the dragon nests. Okay, you'll see here back on this counter here, you're going to need to spend 20 renown collectively as a group in order to defeat the first nest. So how do you do that? Like I said, you walk around the board, you're going to be dropping outposts. The first outpost is going to reward you 2 renown. You're going to be developing those outposts even further. You're going to be destroying dragons. So the dragons are going to be spawning out of these nests each turn. You're going to be rolling the die. If they explode a certain region, then dragons are going to be spilling out around that dragon nest. Okay? And what you're going to have to do is, if you walk into that space, go into combat with said dragon. Now, you start here with your basic strength and defense. This is the value that you're going to be adding to a roll when you get into combat with a dragon. So let's say I moved into combat with a dragon. I have to spend extra focus or actually renown in order to attack them, or I can spend one of my worker resources. Okay, I think these workers are fighters, I believe. Each fighter card that you have in your hand adds 1 to your combat value. But you always have to spend one of these or spend renown whenever you perform an attack. So it's really difficult to determine if I want to spend the currency that I need in order to defeat a nest, or spend a worker, which is actually giving me strength in order to win combat. Okay, so how combat works is we have a dragon die, and you've got your dice. You just roll it up. So this is great. I rolled a 6. I would add my attack modifier to that, and the dragon here, they rolled a 3. Then I would have to check which round am I fighting. So I would check over here, and I would see, okay, the strength of the dragon is only 1. So they would have a 4. Not a problem. That's very simple. But as you can see, as it gets higher up, dragon strengths become much stronger, and that's per dragon. So if you have 3 or 4 dragons in one space, I think 3. I think once it goes to 4, they explode out. It can be very difficult. Now, if I do defeat a dragon, I get to roll this resource die here. This is my victory. And for each dragon, I would gain said resource. Okay, so it's helpful to destroy dragons if you want to collect resources, but I find it very challenging if you don't have the currency to attack them or enough workers. Okay, so how can you become stronger? Well, in addition to your player board and building outposts, each character is going to have their technology tree, and this is pretty sharp. So there's 4 different categories of technology, and let's see, you have all these different tiles here. I got them off to the side here, and you build them from left to right. Okay. Again, it's going to cost resources and focus in order to basically level up attack, But there's different tiers here, so maybe I can focus in the fighting tier where I'm always going to have +1 permanent to my attack, or every time I defeat a dragon, I gain renown. There's also a defensive tree here, so I use my defense value if the dragons are attacking myself or an outpost. I can add my defense there. There's also a market track where I can maybe gain additional focus on my turn, or gain some market cards, which I'll show you. But really what you're trying to do is you're working together, you're moving around the different spaces, you're trying to place down these outposts, which, like I said, they give you renown, and the more outposts that you drop, the more renown that they're going to give you when you drop them, but obviously they cost resources. That food, the wood, the coal that I mentioned. And at the beginning of every round, you're going to be collecting resources wherever you have outposts. So I always find the first round you're trying to expand as much as possible to place your outposts down, to collect those resources, for then the next round, you go out, you need to level up your technology, hopefully get some workers to then fight the dragon. So round one's always a scramble to get as many outposts out as you can to collect those resources, and you're trying to find a nest that I guess is the weakest one to attack, because this value here is technically the number of dragons that are in a spot. So a nest could have 3 dragons on it, plus the strength of a nest, and you've got to roll a d6. Okay, so that's pretty tricky. Some other ways that you can help yourself is going to be this market deck over here. So I can spend, let's say, a worker to gain a technology, which is this pink symbol here, and a renown. So there's always going to be 8 market cards out on the board, and I can be spending, I guess, resources that I don't really need to get what I do need. As well as this action deck card, or action deck. Action deck? I think it's a deck of cards, let's put it that way. And on those is a bunch of different items that can help you. So this is just, any resources that I would need. I can research for 1. I can add +3 to any battle. Very helpful if you wanted to go out and attack. So in order to do that, again, it's one of your actions to spend your focuses on. So I probably should have covered the actions at the beginning, it would have made more sense. But you can move around the board, you can initiate a combat, gain resource cards, all for two focuses. You can perform different items on your board, certain focuses that you have to spend, and really dropping your outposts. So I've played this with Chris, who some of you may know on the channel. We did this a couple times, and the first 2 or 3 games, we got wrecked. And we're playing it on easy right now, okay? So I reached out to the designers, and they walked us through a game on how to play this. And I wouldn't say so much that we weren't playing it wrong, but we weren't playing the situation correctly. And that's where I think this game shines, right? You can't just always go for the same tech tree. You can't always go for attack. Chris would go for attack, and I would go for, let's say, the market way, so I can gain more renown every turn, or gain more focus so I can get those actions out. You really had to play the board, the locations of the dragons, the strength of each one. If I needed to do combat right next to me, or maybe across the board, I would have to go through this deck, and maybe I can get a ranged attack card. I saw them do it, they won, and I couldn't believe it, right? So I went back to the drawing board with Chris. We played it again. 4 times trying to beat it on easy. We could not, okay? There's one thing that I didn't want to introduce, and eventually I did, and that was the Guild of Olympia. Okay, now this is something that was still in development at the time of us playing it. I'm not sure where they currently are right now, and I do hope that this just becomes part standard of the game. And each guild that you can select from the beginning of the game is going to have its own special power. So maybe one guild's going to allow you to get an extra resource every turn, or maybe one guild's going to let you to do an additional attack power. So we could really customize what we were going to focus on at the beginning. And in our 5th game, the first time using the guilds, we were successful, and we did win the game on easy. Okay, so I I wanted to hold off before introducing what was called the expansion in the game to see if I could beat it just normally, and it was a challenge. So I do hope that the Guilds of Olympia just becomes standard part of the game, because I think that's going to be very helpful for many of you out there that are trying to pick this up and to try it, because I was getting frustrated in the beginning. So just having it part of the normal game, I didn't feel like I needed an expansion to win. Now, the developers also told us that it may be because we were playing as 2 factions instead of 4 factions, because you can have a bigger board, you have more people to help, and I wonder if there's just a way to balance that out. If you are starting with lower player count, maybe there's additional resources that we can start the game with. I think that would be helpful. That would be my two changes to it. I think I'm saving the best part for last, and I kind of showed you, it's these components. So not only can you build your outposts, but then you have 4 upgrades that you can place on said outposts, and each one of them does something else. One will allow you to have a higher hand limit, one's going to allow you to gain additional renown every turn, one's going to allow you to increase your actually attack value. So by putting the outposts on the board and then placing these extra, upgrades on them, it made it look really nice. It was kind of like the game looked a little, not abstract to me, but, just standard hexes with the spaces. That's all I needed. I didn't need anything fancy. But by just having these wooden components and having them slip over the outposts, it felt like I was getting stronger. So by round 2 and round 3, I had these strongholds out there, and Chris and I were going around and attacking the dragons, and we needed to go back and protect our outposts. So I just think that was really sharp how they did that by adding this extra little layer here of the components and sliding in. I definitely did like that. All right, so overall, this was a very challenging game, okay? And I do like challenging games. The problem that I had in the beginning was I felt like the challenge came down to always a die roll and not so much my strategy, okay? I do think it was because my strategy was really the same every game, okay? And that's what the developers taught us. You really need to play the lay of the land, what the board's giving to you. And that's how we were successful, especially when we brought in the guilds. So once you bring in the guilds and you give us a few different options, I didn't find that the randomness was really what was stopping us. It was our decisions. The one decision that is a must, though, is the first, I think it's the political upgrade that you need to get, and allows you to trade cards with your partner. So that's a must. It's something you always have to do, and that's a tip that obviously we learned in the beginning, so someone does have to research that. But besides that, I would be looking forward to seeing what they're going to introduce in the actual Kickstarter, seeing if they made any adjustments to the difficulty for a 2-player game, if they brought in the extra guilds. I'd be looking forward to that, because I do feel like I need to beat this game on normal, okay? Normal and possibly hard. I don't know about hard. I don't play many board games to be like, I have to fight it on hard. No, sometimes I do. But normal is a must. If I walk away just beating this on easy, am I a good gamer? I don't know. Or is it just the balance of the game? Something I'm going to be keeping a lookout for when this eventually does come out to Kickstarter again, which is going to be Q1 of 2022. And this has been Alynthia by Exploded Games. And thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you next time.